launched the Facebook Live under the same name. If you're with us on Twitch, we're back online now. We're really sorry about that. To our right, they were starting to break down the right side of the Topcoder arena, and someone unplugged our internet. So we're back.
Classic two-man operation.
That
Things
one
can
wasn't
go
our
wrong.
fault.
But that one wasn't our fault.
That was aggressive breakdown of the space is what that was.
Looks like some people are trying to get out of here, huh?
Yeah, I know. People want to go to the bar, I think.
It's been a while. It's been a good 4 or 5 days for some of us.
The good news for everyone tuning in at home is that no submissions happened in our brief hiatus there. Our apologies, as James Corey apologizes to us for killing our stream. So
with his eyes only, which is weird.
Yeah, so our apologies once again. Red, blue, green, RBG, who has been tuning in all weekend. Someone tripped over a cord.
That's exactly.
I wish I could say that. I think they intentionally unplugged it.
Yes.
But thinking it was plugged into something else.
Yeah, another
us.
Computer maybe.
Yeah. Boy, that's embarrassing, huh?
Yeah, but hey, we're better on our toes, and we hopped into action, and we're back on in less than like 3 minutes. So I think we're good.
Jumping back to Ikatanich, still working on his code here. I do want to jump over now to.
It looks like we have a submission from Scott Wu. Maybe.
Oh wow, that was fast.
It was
Let's
very
jump
fast.
and take a look at Scott's feed and see what he's up to now.
And with that delay that he had, it looks like it's working out for him, as he has the maximum number of points so far. We'll wait to see what Tourist and XUDYH do if they decide to tackle that problem.
Scott's submission coming in at 233.04 points. Right now, the only points on the board, putting Scott Wu from the U.S. on top of the leaderboard for the time being. Checking in on what Scott's doing. He has not yet opened another problem. Right now, I'm imagining that he's just double-checking his solution. And let's just see here. Is he working?
He may be checking to make sure. I think he's doing a little more.
Stress testing it.
Yeah. But he wants to lock it in at this point, because at this point he knows it passed maybe, let's say, 100 tests, but he wants to make sure that it can withstand a large system test of perhaps over 1 million test cases. A large amount.
Yeah,
very
great
large
opportunity to note also. Scott can still continue working on this problem. If he wants to, the timer, the ticking points in the back, they still happen in the background.
Yes.
He can choose to resubmit his code and take the lower score. So if he waits and then suddenly that's a 180 point question, he resubmits the code, his score just updates to be the 180.
Oh no, we have a slew of reactions here. We have some flowers, some angry faces, some laughing faces,
I love
hearts
the live
and
reading
likes.
of the Facebook Live emoji.
There are a lot of them coming in for sure.
All right, jumping over here, back to the chat. So Mr. At JG, who I remember from last year's stream, thank you for coming back, commenting that they definitely are test cases, possibly challenge cases that he might use.
So it looks like he's looking up something online. Looks
perfect,
very mathematical.
It's perfectly within the. Well, all of these are mathematical questions.
Yes. Partitions of Nmod.
The trajectory to get to this level of competitive coding usually starts with math, not with programming. So generally, there's competitive math. There might be mathletes. I don't love the term, but just really, really brilliant. And most of these guys started when they were 10 years or younger with coding, and were kind of math prodigies beforehand.
Absolutely.
So Scott looking up a couple things. Now this is interesting though. In the first round, Scott was not in the top 3 on the leaderboard when he submitted his 250-point question. However, Scott had identified a couple of challenge cases he thought were viable that other people would have overlooked. I suspect that Scott feels he has an extremely strong understanding right now of the problem and is preparing himself for that challenge phase to go look for someone he can knock out, because he's assuming that there will be other submissions to that problem. It worked for him before.
Right. And it looks like he's doing something that he mentioned when he was on the stream, which was actually preparing a mini program that would actually run the code of other competitors and run it through a stress test. So it's not even necessarily going line by line in their code to see if something's messed up. Rather, he can run their code against a subset of inputs, and if it breaks, he he just puts in that number and challenges right away. So
Yeah, waltzes his way to 50 points.
so that's
If
not
it
bad.
works.
And that's probably what he's doing right there.
Yep.
So are we moving on?
Yeah, we've already moved on. We've moved over to Taurus, still working on a 1,000 point question. Still doing some notepad work. What the main thing you notice on Taurus' screen is that he's periodically checking in on the scoreboard. He knows that Scott is submitted at this point. But he's decided that it's not a big enough threat that he needs to bail on the 1,000 point question yet and go try and chase down some points.
Because even if he had submitted, even at 500 points, it still could be a great swing in the competition. So we are coming close to a full 1 hour remaining, 1 hour and 30 seconds. So we will sit and wait.
Yeah, we've
Scott
moved
Woo's
over
giving
now,
us some
Nick.
action.
Checking out BCIP.
BCIP, all right.
Still has his code up. Our Eclipse competitor here. We have a submission on the 450 point question from XUDYH.
Wow, XUDYH coming in, solving that 450.
Taking over that top spot from Scott Woo. Now keep in mind, that can obviously be challenged. Scott still hasn't opened another problem yet, which is of note. He's definitely preparing for the challenge phase at this point.
And with that coming in, I bet once he sees that, he'll start strategizing on how he can start, or which problem he should start on next. Oh, it looks like XUDYH is going after the 1,000 point problem. I really thought he was going to go with the 300 pointer, honestly. So this is a surprise to me. We'll see how it works out for him, but he's got an hour left. And considering the 300 point problem is supposedly less hard or easier rather to complete than the 450, he probably thinks he has enough time still left in the competition to complete it.
I still, very, very impressive from XUDYH after a super strong performance in the semifinal round, getting in that submission on the 450. The only person who even looked at that problem so far. Now, I know we still have a lot of time remaining in the competition, so it's too soon to say for sure, but one thing to keep in mind is that in order to successfully challenge a question, you need to have some level of understanding of what that question is asking.
Right.
So right now, being the only person who's seen it, except Tourist, just hit the eject button on the 1,000 point question, Nick.
He did. Oh, did he move on over?
Yes, he just opened the 450 point question.
Oh, so he's going down the line that way. Okay,
yeah, that tells me the Tourist right now, I'm sure he made some good progress on the 1,000 point question, but now he's seen the amount of time remaining and the fact that two very qualified competitors are on the board, so he's going to go to try and hunt down some points so he can make sure that he's staying near the top.
Again, Scott Woo still has not opened another problem, probably still creating that test case generator to run against competitors who will complete the 300 point question. Now,
Tourist,
this is why I'm thinking Tourist is tackling the 450, because if he thinks that Scott is actually preparing for the 300 point question, he is going to attempt to solve the 450 knowing that Scott Woo has the potential to break his code.
Yes. So following up on the Twitch chat right now, I see some people trying to channel energy to Tourist. I love reading the Twitch chat during the finals. It's so much fun. Everyone's having good fun with the emoji here. A lot of Tourist fans, I'm guessing. A little shout out to Piotr. I call him the GOAT.
The GOAT.
The greatest of all time. So Tourist right now just digesting that question. And we're going to switch over and take a look and see if RNG58 has moved from the notepad to writing code. He sure has. So RNG58, the defending champion from TCO 16, currently working on his code for the 300 point question. Currently, that code is valued at 191 points for RNG58. Not a position he's used to being in, being low on the leaderboard and kind of trailing behind other people submitting problems. RNG58 is a 3-time TCO champion. At one point, he even was Topcoder admin, then moved back on and went back to competing. So, yeah, RNG58 is a guy to watch out for. And these problems can kind of cater to different mindsets, the different types of problems. So this first one...
Oh, it looks like we have a submission from RNG.
As I was talking, I was looking at the scoreboard, not looking at him actually click the submit button. So there it is, RNG with the 300 point question being submitted, locking himself in at 190 points for now. Let's see what he does next.
Well, let's see if he opens up a problem right away or attempts to stress test his code. Let's see what he does here. He's probably looking at the leaderboard, trying to see what everyone's. He's doing a find on tourist to see
he wants
tourist
to know
activity.
What tourist is up to.
He wants to know what he's been doing. Has he submitted? Has he tried to submit to the smaller test cases? So
Fascinating story, Nick.
What's
Just as you talk about tourist, now he immediately went hunting for tourist. In our interviews with the finalists before they sat down for the competition, one of the questions that was asked to everybody was, if you could go head to head with any one person, who would it be? Almost everyone said tourist.
Okay.
Because they said he is the best. And
you want to beat the beast.
Yeah,
you want to beat the beast.
I know.
Why did I say it like that? It was weird.
If you're going to take a shot at the king, you better not miss.
It looks like he's opened up a problem.
So,
which problem is this?
he might be reviewing the.
You think he's
he's reviewing the 300-point question. It's the rabbit question.
Okay.
I just squint a little bit at the screen there, so I just think he's double checking his his work here and maybe preparing some challenge cases in the same manner that Scott Wu is. Speaking of which, Scott Wu
still has
not opened another question. Which is
what is he up to?
Approach. You have to wonder if he's just assuming that the other questions are going to be so challenging that no one's going to get them, and he just wants to focus all of his energy on that first problem, which is why he locked in at a high score early on. So we're going to jump over and see what Scott's up to right now.
Still reviewing code.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see here. It's hard to talk and read at the same time. Did you know that? Try to read the code, figure out what he's doing.
Well, he's definitely just scrolling through his own code. It looks
yes,
like.
Absolutely.
I don't know if he doesn't feel comfortable with it anymore, or again, if he's preparing some test cases. It looks like Scott's going to be well versed in this problem, especially. So if we see other submissions coming on the 300,
Scott
probably
just saw the leaderboard. He just pulled it open. He actually looked like he did a double take there for a moment. So he knows that he's no longer in the top position. And this is a competition where if you ain't first, you last. Because you want to be first place and win $10,000 on this one. So what do we have going on here from Scott? I feel like right now he's just mulling over what his options are. He knows that he's not going to win if these scores hold up. He has to get some level of familiarity with the other questions. So it'll be interesting to see what he's doing.
And what you're seeing here right now, he's going through the system logs. He's seeing what everyone's doing. So you can see when a competitor has launched a test case or completed one. So you have to see what their patterns are. It looks like he has opened up the 450 almost at the same time as RNG. So it looks like they are finally moving on to the next problem.
Correct. Yes, RNG58 and Scott Wu both opening the 450-point question. Here is your leaderboard right now. You can see right now the 450-point question has been opened by 4 of the competitors, submitted by one of those 4. Tourist currently losing points on the 1,000-point question as he's bounced out on that one, decided he's going to focus on that 450 right now and try and claw his way back to the top. XUDYH just has one thing on his mind right now, and that's winning, going for that 1,000-point question after submitting on 450.
Right you are. And when I look at that 310 and see how quickly, once he submitted, moved on to 1,000-point question, I'm a little nervous for him, thinking that he might not pass system tests, only because it seemed that he didn't even question his submission. He thought it was golden, which could be the case, but yes. We might find out later that that isn't the case.
All right, I wanted to move over. Let's check in on Icotach and BCIP. So both of them have been working on the 300-point question for quite a while now, and I'm a little surprised to not see submissions because those were the 2 who started writing code first.
Right.
So BCIP here has been writing code basically since the competition started. He's been working on this function and still doesn't have it solved. Currently, 2 people have submitted to this problem. 50% of those who have opened it have already solved it. They all opened it at basically the same time. Scott Wu was a couple seconds behind everyone else, but we're pretty close to each other, and they're just lagging behind a little bit. They've lost almost 20 points on RNG, who I feel like just submitted.
Right, and you have to think, when is enough enough? Are they going to spend their entire time on this question, or do they move on to the 450 to try to get enough points to get that top spot? Because if you're not first, you're last.
Oh, I already said that one.
Damn it.
Oh, man, you must have been in your zone.
I was in the zone.
Apparently, we
Don't
both
let
love
me
Ricky
get in my
Bobby
zone.
quotes.
Don't let me get in my zone.
All right, so BCIP looks like he's moved off of his, he's moved out of Eclipse, and he's really just kind of revisiting his thinking right now. At this point, you have to wonder, is it sunk cost? Is he kind of just overcommitting to this one problem as he slowly trickles his time and points away? It's a little too soon to tell. We'll have to see if he wants to make a move soon. But if he's struggling with the 300-point question, the 450 might be even tougher.
Although XUDYH did make the 450 look a little easier than we thought it might be, so maybe it would be a good idea if BCIP did move over.
Yeah, so now tuning in over to Ika Tonic, seeing what he's got here. The Emacs devotee throwing shade at Vim in his interviews. Looks like he is also reevaluating his thinking. He hasn't had much movement there outside of checking the score in quite a while. So now he's seen that leaderboard. He has to be wondering exactly what he wants to do. I think now, I think Nick is kind of poking at me and hinting that maybe it's time to talk about the 450-point question in a little more detail, since we have 4 competitors who have opened that question to this point. Just give me one moment while we switch over to, let's take a look at what Tourist is doing right now. Tourist actually is coding as I switch video inputs. 2-man show continues. Tourist, was coding a second ago, I think. We'll leave it up there for a second. You can see some of the examples that Tourist has. So the 450-point question in this competition is related to a game rather. It's played on a straight line using tokens. There are 2 kinds of tokens, A and B, and there are 2 players. There is a set of rules. They're pretty simple. I don't have the full details on the rules of this particular game, but it's kind of like a token moving up and down the line sort of game. And what they have to figure out is how many ways can player B win. So based on an initial position that is provided, they need to figure out the number of ways that player B can win the game.
Okay. It's essentially, are they like on a grid that one has to move away from the other, but they can only move one?
Like I said, I don't know the details of how it's played.
I'm really interested in it.
Tim Mack, who runs the competition, was not able to share that with me before we went on the air.
That's unfortunate.
So maybe people can reverse engineer it from the examples here. Smarter folks than I who are watching the stream.
That was a good rundown, though, I feel.
Yeah. So really, it's the key takeaway from this is that the game is simple, but figuring out how to guarantee a win is not. There's a lot of paths to victory, and you need to figure out which ones guarantee victory for player B in order to successfully solve this problem. Let's see here. Bouncing over to the chat. Show Tourist.
That's what we got going.
I do have a request for XUDYH's screen. One person's theorizing that Taurus has already solved everything and is just trolling, including the one that he hasn't even opened yet.
He's that good, apparently. His legend precedes him.
Yeah, I mean, Taurus is notorious for coming in at the last minute and submitting. Great example was in the last round where he opened the 1,000-point, just like he did today. Bailed on that, then he went down and solved the 250 and the 500-point questions. And successfully solved both of them before the end of time, and most of the other competitors didn't even open all 3. So this shows how quickly Taurus can move, especially on those easier questions. So it's time to keep an eye on him. I know right now he does have some code. Actually, I think that might be the starting code that you get, just the kind of the function name, so the compiler can take it and test it appropriately. He hasn't started any of his own coding yet, so everyone who wanted to see Taurus, that's what you get.
It looks like Egatonic has opened the 450-point question. He has given up on the 300.
For now, at least. But that's not a good sign for Egatonic. She's going to have to really make up some ground on the 450-point question here. That 300 is supposed to be the easiest points in the match, and if he's unable to solve that one, he's going to need to really up his game on these next few questions. I did see some requests for XUDYH's screen, so let me hunt down our map here and pull him back. as we take one last look at the leaderboard. XUDYH coming in from China. Now,
Working on the 1,000-point question.
yeah, I think it's safe to assume that once again we're doing some notepad work here. 1,000-point question. I do have an overview of it. It's a lot. I was told we can only get very high level overview because it would just take too damn long to go in depth. So I think we're gonna hold off on that one until at least one more person opens it, just for
Either that or maybe 20 minutes left.
yeah. To be honest, I don't know if anyone's going to be able to solve that one. Of course, now that I've said it, XUGYH is going to make me eat some crow.
Surprise everyone.
Yeah, so I think the Twitch chat goes crazy whenever XUDYH is being shown because they love his desktop backgrounds.
Oh, right. Everyone loves that background, huh?
It's very vibrant, that's for sure. So yeah, someone came to see if we were online. We did have an issue earlier where someone unplugged our internet. We apologize for that, and we're still going. XUDYH currently working away at on his notepad, working on the 1,000-point problem, looking to become dominant, and we do have another scoreboard update. BCIP has also hit the eject button and bailed out on the 300-point question, now opening the 450-point question, realizing he's got to go get some points if he wants to have any chance of competing for $10,000 today.
I honestly thought all the 300-point questions would be open before I saw all the 450-point questions open, but I really like the way that this competition is shaping out. You have a lot of peppering of people opening different types of questions in different orders. Really cool to see, and I'm curious to see in the end which strategy really helped out that particular competitor.
Now I got to say this change of events. I mean, I think it's an unexpected turn right here. Everyone going to the 450 right now, just about, and only 2 submissions on the 300-point question. You have to think that Scott Wu is questioning how much time he spent on challenging, getting ready for the challenge phase of that 300-point question. If there's only one other option to challenge, that may have been lost time, and that may have blown up his strategy a little bit.
And my thought is that he's going to only be concentrating on the 300 and 450. He may not even tackle that 1,000, and I think he really wants to create those test cases, make sure his code is solid, and by holding on to 2 problems, I feel like he might feel that would be enough to solidify a championship.
Correct. Yeah, and Scott Wu, you just got to feel for him. I think he had his strategy coming in, and XUDYH just kind of came in and just ruined the strategy with that submission on the 450-point question.
That might be another reason why people opened the 450 question. They saw that XUDYH was able to solve it rather quickly, so they might feel as if that they'd be able to solve it in a good amount of time.
Right. So, jumping back over to Tourist. Tourist still working away on his own off the screen. I almost wonder if they know we're showing it, so they just keep it hidden. Doesn't want anyone to see his methods. The method to, I can't call it madness. Method to his brilliance is more like it. We'll now jump in, and who's been working on a question for a while here? I mean, Taurus obviously has been working on this for a while. RNG58 has been on the 450 for a decent amount of time now as well. I know he's another one who's notorious for doing all of his work on the notepad. And we'll see. Looks like we may have lost RNG58's video feed.
No.
So my apologies to everyone on the stream. Maybe he unplugged it. Maybe he's frustrated. I can't say. I'm not in the guy's head.
Or, you know what? This has happened before. He could, his monitor could have gone to sleep. Because,
actually, that has happened.
Yeah,
if he's just heads down, scribbling down his notes, that is entirely possible.
So we'll come back to him.
Yeah, we'll come back to him, see what Scott Wu is up to right now. A whole lot more of the same. Everyone's heads down trying to solve this problem right now. The game of tokens, it's called.
And I actually see in the distance, it's really hard. There are a lot of people in the way, but Scott Wu is standing up right now and looking down.
Well, Scott's an animated competitor. Yeah, Scott likes to kind of move his body while he thinks. He's got earplugs in, says he wants to not be disturbed by the environment.
He is looking around in the crowd.
Around a bit.
Yeah.
he was walking around before we started, and it was like the Scott Wu get hype moment of TCO. He was jumping up and down, slapping his face. He was getting ready.
Really? You saw that going on?
Yeah, he's intense. He's a competitor, and he's had coaches over the years. You know, he started out as a young age, just kind of as a math prodigy, grew into this competitive programmer, and various math and programming coaches have helped him along the way. So he had mentioned that in there, but he totally views this as a competition. Like this is not fun coding time for Scott Wu. Scott's here to win, and I know he's trying to seize the opportunity.
And getting into Harvard is no small feat either. So
Yeah, neither is leaving Harvard early to start your own company, which is what Scott did.
That's exactly what he did. You're
So
right.
yeah, at the age of 21, he left Harvard. There was another guy who did that. His name was Zuckerberg. He was pretty smart, I hear.
Oh, I think I've heard of that guy.
Yeah, so
I might be using one of his applications right now.
Yeah, Scott following in his footsteps. We can see him still scrolling through and reading the problem a little bit here.
He's definitely standing out. I like how he's just like looking around at the crowd, and I used this before, but beautiful minding right now. Just, he's probably looking at formulas that are appearing in the air.
Someone's asking if RNG rage quit in the chat. So Matthew appreciates our description, painting the picture of Scott getting into the zone right now.
Love it.
It's common whenever you see him compete. He's just, I certainly hope he does solve it, just selfishly, as he's given us so much on the stream over the past 2 TCOs. I certainly want to see him succeed.
So it looks like Torres should be making some significant progress. He's spent the most time out of the remaining active competitors on the 450 problem. But looks like he still may be on his pad of paper.
Man, these guys don't like making broadcasting easy, do they? So, Torres still working away. I mean, the narrative here, Torres didn't even make the finals last year, which was a huge upset.
Right.
Everyone expected Torres to be in the finals. I still remember the noise in the room when everyone saw that he didn't make it.
Right.
And
a lot of gasping.
I gotta say, he was mad. He was not happy about his performance at TCO 16. He came out and dominated the semifinal rounds with a really impressive performance, submitting on the 250 and the 500-point question after spending half of his coding time on the 1,000-point that he didn't even submit on. So, I mean, Torres, you can't count him out, ever.
Now, he took a similar approach in his semifinal. He actually went from the 1,000 to the 250. I'm wondering if he's saving the 300 as his lifeboat, if he's going to go back and solve it, and hoping that he solves it in a short amount of time.
XUDYH is currently coding the 1,000-point question.
Actively
coding it. So it looks like he's just getting started, but you can see here the class is called Splitting Foxes. That relates to the problem. If you can reverse engineer what the problem is from what he's got here, the more power to you. But yeah, XUDYH moving from the scratch pad to the notepad, I guess you could say. Someone else actually to the Sublime text. Couple more comments. Crowcoder thinks Torres will fail. Someone says Too Simple going to win. I don't know who Too Simple is. You don't think they're
probably maybe Torres. I still
is that
thinking
another handle.
Too Simple.
Yeah. So yeah, as soon as I say that he's actively coding, he stops. No, he's still going. We'll tune in and keep our eye on XUDYH for a couple minutes while we wait to see what everyone else does. We will check in, I think, in a few moments on BCIP and Ikatanich to see just how they're doing as they've had to adapt their strategy. Can't be feeling good at the moment. And you have to think, 90 minutes of coding, it's got to be tough if you spend so much time and feel that you can't solve a problem.
Yes, hopefully they're having a little more luck than they were with the 300-point question for sure.
Yeah. So XUTYH doing a little Google foo over here, trying to look up something to help him
Wolfram
here.
Alpha.
So yeah, he's calculating out some functions. So
wow, this is the kind of math that you will be seeing in this company. Wow.
Well, it's so much. I mean, it's not that hard, but it'd take me a few minutes if I did it on paper.
But I wouldn't even know why even do it.
Yeah, why do it yourself when you can do it
helpful?
faster? Speed is of the essence. So let's take a look here. Another Camless thinking Tourist will win. How's it looking on the Facebook Live side, Nick?
Quiet. Crickets over there.
Wow. Guys, come on, get hyped up.
Let's go. We have 69 people viewing live. Get your questions in. We'll answer them for you. Let us know what you want to see.
126 last I checked on the Twitch stream.
Very cool, very cool.
Good participation there as we tune into the leaderboard with 36 minutes remaining in the competition. Currently, XUDYH on top, Scott Wu following behind, and RNG58 in third place position. Those are the only three who have submitted to the problem so far.
All right, we did have a like come across for this page. People...
Oh man, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel for content right now as everyone works on their notepads.
There was
no one on Facebook wants to interact with us.
There was a question earlier. It was someone from Vietnam called Diamond Ming, and he's actually curious of how the scoreboard works. Why is it counting down? If we could revisit that.
Yeah, we have been going for about 45 minutes now, so I think doing another talk through of the format of the Topcoder single round match makes sense at this point. So I have pulled up our scoreboard so I can talk you guys through this. There are three problems of varying degrees of difficulty. The 300-point problem is the easiest problem. The 450-point problem is considered a mid-tier difficulty problem, and the 1,000-point problem is the hardest problem in the competition. This being the finals with $10,000 at stake for the winner, they're all very challenging problems. So with that...
let's see if we can get Tim on here for a couple minutes, maybe, to talk about maybe some of the problems that they're working on.
I can jump on for about a minute or two.
Okay, so hold on. Excuse us for a moment as we produce on the fly. I'm joined right now by Tim Kirchner, who's running the competition today. So Tim, what are you seeing so far from the competitors, and can maybe you tell us a little bit more about some of the problems?
Yeah, what I'm seeing is actually a lot of surprise on my end that not more of them have solved the easy problem yet. Usually during the finals, by this point in the competition, almost everybody has usually submitted the easy, so they're having a bit of trouble with it. We see Tourist taking a similar strategy to what he did yesterday, going right for the 1,000, and he actually backed off from that and opened up the medium instead.
Yes, he actually just started coding for the medium, so he's finally moved from the notepad.
So it looks like he's got some idea on how to do it at least.
Yes, he usually doesn't like to start typing until he has a pretty clear
idea. Which is actually, that's usually a really good strategy, to spend more time thinking and less time typing, and you'll usually do a little bit better.
Yeah.
Of course, XUDYH, I'm not sure if that's actually pronounceable in some reasonable way, but is at the top because he took the move of going right for the medium. The reason I'm guessing he did that is when competitors see instead of 250, 500, they see 300 and 450. That tells them the easy is not as easy as usual, and the medium is not as medium as usual. And so he said, okay, well, you know what? Let's see if I can get that medium quickly. And in fact, he did. And thus far, it looks like it might be a viable strategy.
Yeah, well now, originally when he submitted that, I was questioning how hard it will be for others to consider challenging him, since everyone was working hard on the other questions and no one even looked at the 450. Obviously, that was early in the competition. Everyone's going to be very familiar with that 450-point question at this point. Do you think we're going to see that be the prime target in the challenge phase if nothing else changes before then?
I would imagine so. Being the only one to solve the medium, especially if others don't solve it, they're going to have, at least in their mind, the idea that it's very difficult and easy to make a mistake on.
And what do you think of Scott Wu's approach in the competition? He waited a little bit to open the first problem to see what everyone else did.
Yeah,
and then when he
was
solved it, he spent time working on test cases and not.
Well, working on test cases is always a viable strategy because you want to be ready for challenge phase. You've only got 10 minutes. You don't want to spend that entire 10 minutes figuring out what test case you're going to use. You want to have your test case ready and use that time to figure out whose submission you think it might work against.
All right. Well, I think that strategy may have backfired because the only RNG58 submitted to that, but BCIP and Ikatanish both dropped out on that question, so he's got very few targets now.
He does have very few targets. However, there's still a half an hour left for any of them to come back and solve it.
All right.
Tourist could bail on the 450 as well and go down to the 300.
Speaking of the 450, every competitor is open it. Tim, can you give us any more information on the 450? I did talk a little bit through how it is a game of tokens played on a straight line, two types of tokens, A and B, and two players, also A and B, which maybe...
Essentially, the goal is to, on your turn, you have to move a token one spot to the left, but you can only do so into an empty cell. And the goal of the game is to be the last one who is actually able to make a valid move.
Now, are the competitors provided with the initial positions of pieces on the board, and they must figure out how many ways there are to do it?
They are provided with initial positions of some pieces. Other squares on the board are marked with a question mark. So it could be an empty cell, could be an A, or could be a B. They actually have to figure out in how many of the possible configurations does player B have a winning strategy. So there's a couple parts of that problem to unpack. Not only what constitutes a winning strategy for the game, which is mostly a lot of math on your paper, hopefully, and not as much programming. But then once you've got that, how do you efficiently calculate those winning strategies based upon all the possible ways that the board could be laid out?
And it has to be a guaranteed win for player B.
Has to be a guaranteed win for player B. Yeah.
All right. So what do you think about XUDYH having submitted to that already? Do you think he actually solved it? Seems like even Taurus is taking longer.
I'm hesitant to comment on things like that since I actually have additional knowledge about the state of all of the problems. So I'm going to have to just say his score looks good and he's at the top of the board. So.
All right. Well, that is some classic John Madden commentary. So, all right, Tim. Thank you very much for that.
I'm going to go. Continue
We'll go
to
back to our scoreboard so you can just see where things stand right now, and then we'll tune back in and see what Taurus is up to.
We'll give you back to Ron Burgundy over here.
You have to say it into the mic, Nick. All right, going back over to see what
Whoa,
Taurus
we got
is
some
up
code
to.
finally.
Oh yeah, no, Taurus started while Tim was going. So
I did want to point out that Tourist is now under the point value that XUDYH submitted at 450 point code, and so is RNG58. Scott Wu is closing in.
yeah, I just want to comment on a couple questions. So someone asked, is it allowed to use the internet? Yes, you can use the internet. No, you cannot watch the stream. You cannot watch our stream. You cannot watch Piotr's stream. And the way we enforce this is that we have all of their monitors visible on the screen. So they're all competing live in person right now. So they have eyes on them. If we see them go to it, they don't have their phones. They have a piece of paper. They have a notepad. They have a pencil, and they have their machine. So that's how we can enforce it. If someone pulls up that stream, it's going to be a disqualification, just like that. Nick's seeing some action on Facebook.
Oh, tons of flood of emotions here. We have some angry faces. We have some likes and hearts and flowers
geez.
And
now is this directed at Tourist or us?
Who knows? Maybe Tourist is like the New England Patriots, and he's the lovable one that you want to take down.
Oh, well, if that's the case, last year he must have played against the Giants since he didn't make it in.
Can always count on you for sports references as well.
Always. I know they're probably lost on many of our viewers, so I should probably tone it down. So, yeah, Taurus working away at his code right now. I know there's been so many requests for Taurus, so we're going to keep him on the screen for a few minutes. I'll let you watching at home dissect what he's typing out as we keep an eye on the scoreboard. We'll keep you apprised of the situation. I think Nick and I need to rest our voices for about 30 seconds. So.
And before we go,
stay tuned
we have Dean who says go Scott. We have Kent who says why is Piotr not in the finals?
Oh, Piotr didn't qualify this year, so he's participating in his own way with his own stream, which is definitely definitely a cool way to contribute. And being the stand-up guy that he is, he actually contacted me first to see if it was okay to do that.
That's so nice.
I really did appreciate him reaching out. So very nice of Piotr. I'm glad that he's involved in TCO in some ways. It wouldn't be TCO without him. So glad that he's still participating even from home right now. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, maybe get some water, and we'll be back. We'll leave you with Taurus as he works on the 450-point question. And we're back at TCO 17 in Buffalo. Will Price joined by Nick Castillo right now, coming back with a quick scoreboard update. Not a submission, don't get too excited.
Not a submission, not yet at least.
All right, so we're going to go back to the scoreboard. What we wanted to call out was Ike Katanich has opened the 1,000 point question. He's realized that he needs to make a move if he wants to get to the top, and it's the only way to do it. It's go big or go home for him at this point.
Yes, absolutely. So the only competitor now to have opened all 3 problems, unfortunately hasn't submitted to any, but perhaps hoping that within the next 25 minutes or so that he will be able to solve the 1,000. Maybe that could possibly jump him up to the first place position. We'll have to see how he tackles this.
Yeah, also worth pointing out, if you caught that there, Tourist's 450 point question is now valued at 253 points. Even a successful submission, if he did it right now, would not put him ahead of XUDYH. He would need to go in and solve the 300 point question pretty quickly, which he hasn't even seen yet, and hasn't been super easy with 2 competitors who are extremely qualified, already bowing away from that one.
And
very interesting.
XUDYH also has not tackled the 300-point problem. That could just mean that their confidence is really high in the fact that they feel as though they will be able to solve that problem rather quickly.
I love this. Can you show Taurus, all right, a couple of things on the stretch. Can we show Taurus coding, not the screencast, but him himself coding? Unfortunately, we cannot. We don't have a camera in position in that area this year, so my apologies for that. You can see Taurus during our closing ceremonies when we recognize all of the competitors.
Correct.
He'll be there if you want to see him. Red, Blue, Green, RBG says it seems like a super hard finals. I would agree with you on that one. It's supposed to be hard. If it was easy, everyone would do it, right?
Absolutely.
So the question, where is the music? 1 minute we have too much music, the next minute we have too little music. Now, when we turn off the mics, we probably should turn on the music, but actually the music in the venue has been turned off right now as these guys are concentrating as hard as they can towards getting this completed. So unfortunately, no music that we can pipe in right now. If we did, someone would probably come and say stop the music anyways, so we do the best we can with the tools that we're given.
It also has gotten a little louder in here. There has been more people filing in, other competitors possibly getting ready for the award ceremony that will be happening later on today, and also potential customers as well.
Yeah, a large crowd starting to get around the monitors. People are starting to get their spot now for the challenge phase, I feel like. That's going to begin in 27 minutes for anyone at home who's waiting for the excitement to begin, though I do hope we get some more submissions before then so that there's a chance of successful challenges happening. The challenge phase has the potential to be the most exciting or most boring phase of the competition, depending on how things go.
Yeah, and there is $10,000 on the line for those of you who didn't know. The first place winner, that is what they will receive. We have Karan on Facebook seemingly challenging this person named Dushyant, and he's asking any bets this time. So who knows if they were betting on the previous TCO.
Yeah, geez. I wonder if you guys have odds? I'd just be curious what they look like.
The odds of who, yeah, absolutely.
Is there a scoring line? Do we have an over-under that we can, on total points scored in the TCO final?
We are quickly turning into a gaming platform for sure. This could be the next esports.
Question coming in from Matthew99B. So contestants have to code in a noisy environment. Yes, that's part of the challenge here. They're all live. They're all here in person in Buffalo, New York, where it's being hosted. They're on a stage with workstations next to each other. Their monitors are all piped and shown down to a kiosk where people gather around and watch their code in real time. The same way we give it to you, people can walk between monitors and see what everyone's doing.
And Enot is correct. We do provide earplugs if they'd like to use it. They are also allowed to listen to music as well.
Correct. So
to drown out the noise.
That adds to the pressure as well. It's one thing to code in the comfort of your home. It's another thing to do it, on stage with people watching you, watching your every move, knowing that you have extremely qualified commentary on the internet coming from Piotr. Then you also have us.
Exactly.
Took Nick a second.
Being super loud. Well, maybe that's why that they didn't set up on our side of the arena this time. We have a question. What was it? What editor is Tourist using?
Tourist, I think I wrote it down somewhere. I believe it's, he uses a tool called Farm Manager, and then he just uses a simple text editor.
Oh, yeah, it looks like that.
He's
Uh-huh.
very,
Bare
very focused on his
bones.
tool set.
Yeah.
It's all about speed with him. He just wants the fastest editor that he can use. So, and I believe Farm Manager is a tool that he uses to switch to his editor. I'm not familiar with the tool myself, so I just saw that right before he came on the air, that's what he uses. But Tourist right now still has not submitted to that 450-point problem, so he's going to have to get something in soon, and then he's going to have to continue. Also worth noting right now, as we switch back to our leaderboard for a moment, XUDYH has opened a 300-point question.
Oh, okay.
So he
like
had code written for the 1,000-point question. And,
saw that, yes.
he apparently decided that it wasn't worth it to invest his remaining 20 minutes in that. Wants to go and try and secure his lead a little bit more with the 300-point question.
So now we have two competitors who have opened all three questions. XUDYH, the only one of those two that have actually submitted successfully.
All right, well, I think knowing that XUDYH just opened a question, we can safely say his feed will not be the most interesting at the moment as he reads through that problem statement. But I want to check in on some of our other competitors. I know we've been doing some heavy tourist coverage, and these other guys deserve a little bit of recognition as well. So I think let's start looking at the defending champion, RNG 58.
His screen is back on. Looks like
All
he's
right.
in the mix.
Yeah, so we're back on Notepad++. So he's cranking away right now. He is working on the 450-point problem currently. That problem for him is currently valued at 246 points. Submission to that, really any time in the near future, would put him into the top position if he's getting close. And he just did have a successful compile. He is batch testing. He could probably read this faster than me. He just had 5 successful test cases from the Topcoder platform.
And those are small test cases. I mean, they don't most likely consider a lot of the edge cases. So he must feel good about the direction he's going in, at least. He's just making sure that the code that he would submit is solid code.
Yeah, he knows what the scoreboard looks like right now, and he knows if he submits, even if he takes an extra couple of minutes, that he'll be in a good position. Looks like he's doing some additional testing here on the example problems. So this is interesting. He could be getting very close to a submission.
And it's interesting to... What's that?
Sorry. Let's see. Tourist. Timing 85%, thinking 10%, coding 4.5%, testing at 0.5%. That's how the stream seems to think that Tourist thinks. So yeah, not certain if Tourist is going to win. People are saying XUDYH fighting hard for the victory here. So we'll keep an eye on XUDYH for sure going forward.
And it's interesting to see that for the 450-point problem, it looks like no one is going to surpass XUDYH's 310 points. So in order to overtop XUDYH, you most likely would need to complete submit 2 successful submissions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here we see RNG58 made a couple edits to his code, and now he's compiled and is testing again. So we're going to get an idea. He might be continuing to inch close. He still has a little bit of leeway as we have 16 minutes left in the round.
We have movement, folks. BCIP has submitted to the 450-point problem at 281.77.
All right, BCIP moving into the second place position with a submission on that 450-point problem. With 16 minutes remaining in the round, I wouldn't expect him to go to the 1,000-point problem at this point.
Yes, I think it would be smarter for him to go back to the 300-point problem. If he could tackle that, I know he's probably made some quality work on it. Oh, we have another submission by RNG58 with 237.71 points. That jumps him all the way up to the first place position and in good shape to potentially win his second championship in a row.
Oh, wow. RNG58 making that move to the top of the leaderboard. I remember last year, no one was able to challenge, and he passed both of the problems that he submitted on. So looking to be in a very similar position to where he was during the TCO 16 finals last year, where he was, of course, the champion. So jumping to the chat here, no reaction.
Oh, we
that.
have love.
A lot of love. A lot of love coming
A
on
lot
the
of
Facebook
RNG
side.
fans.
Twitch side,
Ooh, we have
everyone
a-
might be in shock that Tourist hasn't even opened the 300-point question and is currently sitting in 5th place on the leaderboard with 0 points right now.
The action is coming, and it's coming fast. There's 15 minutes left. You should start seeing a lot of movement. Great to see RNG being able to submit to that. It doesn't look like he is opening the 1,000-point problem. Maybe going back to make sure that his 2 solutions are solidified, ironclad, so that they cannot be defeated in the challenge round.
Correct. So we have switched over to BCIP, who's probably right now just thinking about what he can do to complete that early. Actually, even successfully solving the 300-point question right now wouldn't put him into a winning position unless someone else had a failed system test or got challenged. So BCIP in a challenging position right now on the leaderboard. You're going to need some help from the testing phase. There is one storyline here if he's getting close, so we're going to go take a look in at Scott Wu. Scott Wu currently has 233 points on the leaderboard, but that 450-point question is still worth 234 to him. If he gets that in, he gets it in soon,
he
that
could
would
hop
catapult
up
him in the first place.
So only him and XUDYH at this point seem to have a viable shot to overtake RNG at this time. Tourist yet to submit to any problem.
And yet to open any problem. I know you can never count him out. You almost have to wonder, like, does he have a solution to the 1,000-point? He's just trolling everyone. I mean, I doubt it. I wouldn't do that with $10,000 on the line.
Exactly. And maybe he thinks he can solve the 300 with at least 10 minutes left. So still utilizing his time and attempting to complete, which I think is the 450-point question.
Right. So a couple questions coming in. I see someone pulling for Ikatanich, hoping they'll get an upset. It's going to be tough, but it could happen if he is able to solve that 1,000-point question, which I know we haven't even talked about yet. We'll get to that in just a moment. We just, having all this activity, it's suddenly a flurry. So another question, can you get up and leave the match? I suppose you could, but why would you? I mean, you worked very hard to get here, and
we have seen Tourist already get up from his computer, walk around, try to get that blood flow into the brain, and just thinking about the problem. Sometimes, competitors just need to get up and move around. After doing a little bit of math, actually, we have determined that Scott Wu would need at least 194.75 points in the 450.
Taurus is open the 300-point question.
Taurus is on the board.
No, not on the board.
On the board in the 300-point column, I should say.
Taurus is open the final question right now.
Apologize for
Taurus
that.
is, I got to assume he's not ready to submit on the 450-point question, but it could be some classic Taurus timing. You never know. They're cutting it very close and living dangerously right now, Taurus is. So yeah, Scott Wu still has about 30 points to work with, a little more than 30 points on that 450-point question if he can get a submission in to move up into that top position.
It's going to be really close here at the end, folks. XUDYH is working currently on what supposedly is the easiest problem, the 300-point problem. And if he submits that, he would have a pretty great lead on any of the competitors. So solving the 300-point problem looks really good for XUDYH to win the championship this year.
All right. Jumping down, taking a look. We're talking about other people's possibilities. Right now, RNG has a solid hold on the position. It would take, someone else would have to get multiple successful challenges to move up there in the challenge phase, or they'd have to hope to get lucky in the system. I guess it's not luck, but they'd have to hope to be saved by the system test.
Nikotanich's only hope right now is to solve that 1,000-point problem. I don't think he's going to be able to solve, even if he solves a 300 or 450.
He is coding right now, so he's trying. He certainly isn't giving up, and I don't blame him. I'm glad to see him fighting to the last, and gotta go big at this point in the competition.
And so many things that could happen. Ikatanich could submit soon that 1,000-point question and jump to the top. Scott Wu could solve that 450-point question and shoot right to the top, and so can XUDYH by solving the 300-point question. So anything can happen within the last 10 minutes, 40 seconds. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, and let's keep. I think it's a great opportunity with 10 minutes remaining in the competition or the coding phase of the competition, to note the 1,000 point question, just so everyone knows what Ikatanich is working on
Sure.
right now. So this problem is pretty complex. I can only give it once again a high level overview. It starts with a fox in the center of a grid. Every turn, there's a series of turns that will execute over the course of this. It's a set number of turns. It will be n number of turns, we can say. Every turn, there are specific parameters to determine how this fox splits. So the fox is constantly splitting into more foxes. There are also parameters based on location that determine if the fox will move forward 1 square, turn left, or turn right. Each square on the grid is worth a specific point value as well. And then they'll need to figure out what the point total is for a grid. So given a layout of a grid, they need to figure out what the total point value earned would be.
It looks like we have some movement on the scoreboard. It jumped for a second.
Yeah, I don't see a
But
submission.
here we go.
XUTYH is submitted
Wow.
to the 300
269 points,
That's
overshadowing Scott
confidence.
Woo's 233, which does put Scott Woo at a very big disadvantage. It doesn't look like he would be able to capture the top spot.
He'll need
if
those
it
test
ended.
cases to come in. And
There's
play.
still test cases, yes, of
Yes.
course, but before the challenge phase, it looks pretty bleak for him. BCIP, even if he submitted that 300-point problem, wouldn't get him to the top. XUDYH in a great position right now.
Now, keep in mind, everybody, there is the challenge phase. For those of you who may... I'll explain the challenge phase in the 5-minute intermission.
Sure.
But after the challenge phase, so just trust me, there's a challenge phase coming. It can be really interesting.
BCIP has just opened a 1,000-point question. Not sure completely why. Maybe he wants to familiarize himself with what kind of problem it is.
Just in case Taurus submits at the last minute.
Could be. We have someone on Facebook, perhaps trolling us. His name is Nurmal, and he says, I wouldn't be surprised if Taurus submits all 3 in the last 5 minutes. He's good at fooling his competitors, and even the streamers.
Yep. So that's totally fair. I mean,
We have some people agreeing
I'm
with
just
him.
here for the party afterwards.
Of course, yeah. We're just the commentary right now.
Yeah, so people have been asking to see Taurus' screen to see if he's maybe ready to submit to everything at once.
It looks like
and
RNG has finally opened up
his
the
way to the top.
1,000-point question, so now he is familiarizing himself with that. There is a high improbability that he's actually going to submit to the 1,000-point question with 7 minutes, 50 seconds remaining.
All right, very exciting. So everyone who wanted to see what Taurus is working on, there you go. That's what Taurus is working on.
And this is very cool to see, actually. You hardly see every competitor opening every problem. Scott Woo is the only competitor that hasn't opened that 1,000-point question.
Yeah. Oh wow. This is.
Tourist still yet to submit to any question.
Yeah. So I mean, we can just keep his screen up and see if he does. See if he's going to try and pull some of the Taurus magic. But there's a lot going on here.
A lot of outcomes still available, but this will come down to the challenge phase and the system test for sure.
So I mean, with 7 minutes left, as we said, if Taurus has all of these solves and submitted all of them right now, he would leap to the top of the leaderboard.
But that wouldn't make really much sense, would it? Why wouldn't you lock in the 1,000-point question a little
If you're
earlier?
that confident in your abilities and you like to mess with your competitors, I mean, that seems to be the very common feedback that we're getting on his strategies. So, if he wants to make a dramatic finish, I'm okay with that.
You're all for it?
Yeah, still no action on Taurus' screen right now. Looking down to the other side of the room. I'm standing up, so excuse my voice moving away. I don't see him. I don't see him standing up. So he's sitting down right now. Not sure what he's going to do. I do want to see if Ikatanich is getting close to a submission on the 1,000-point question, which would totally change the landscape. So we can see here what he's working on. Not sure how close he is. Not sure how many test cases he's run. It does appear he's running some local tests as well, though. Also worth checking in with Scott Woo again. We're going to kind of check in really quickly on everybody.
Oh, Scott Woo looks like he's close to submitting, if not already.
Yeah, checking his tests. So Scott Wu could be getting close. We'll keep an eye on the leaderboard right now, see how he's feeling right now, checking those string patterns. This is the same behavior that we saw from RNG58 shortly before submitting to his problem. Speaking of...
If he does submit soon, actually, as we said, 194 or 196 is 194, I believe, is the minimum amount
to
that
put
he
him
would
in
need
second
to put him in
place.
second.
Yes. He would need some help in the challenger system test phase.
And we all know how he acts in the system phase or test phases. Actually.
Yeah, Scott is a very prepared tester, and he comes ready to fight it out with everybody. So going back as we approach the end to Tourist. Taurus does have his code open. He's working on that 300-point question. Still has not submitted to anything.
Overall, we have 6 successful submissions over 4 members, 4 competitors.
See requests coming in. They want to see XUDYH and what he's up to right now.
Yeah, what is he up to? Is he solidifying his code, perhaps?
He's working on the 1,000-point problem again.
Is he?
Yeah, he went back to it. I was expecting him to maybe be working on test cases for the challenge phase.
XUDYH.
That's how he must be feeling like he's getting close. I mean, that would, if he managed
That would
to
be a
submit to all 3
monster.
successfully, this would be just complete domination.
Monster round, that would be.
Yeah, so for everyone following along at home, Taurus still has not submitted to this question because I know everyone's asking, has Taurus submitted? No, Taurus is not submitted yet, but we can always hope for some fireworks as we enter the final 4 minutes of the coding phase. Sorry, 4 minutes and 10 seconds. No new submissions since then. We know Scott Wu is close to a submission. That would, if he does it soon, it would catapult him into second place. XUDYH with a stranglehold on the first place position right now. Tourist has opened all of the questions, but not submitted to any. BCIP in a challenging position where his 300 is not worth enough to make any real movement on the leaderboard. Currently looking at the 1,000-point question, but with 3 minutes left, I would be shocked to see him do that. So now, time for Taurus. We're going to go back to Tourist. Are there going to be fireworks? Everyone wants to know what is going to happen. Running a couple tests as he approaches the end here. Supremely confident, so he would surprise everyone, but he wouldn't surprise everyone, if that makes any sense. Yeah, sitting on those submissions for a long time. Of course, in his head, he's probably on all of the math to know what it takes to get ahead of XUDYH. Ikatanich, currently still working on the 1,000-point question. We're going to jump in and take a look at him real fast. I know.
Yes, Ikatanich could possibly submit, and if he does, that would stir up this crowd for sure.
Yeah, so currently working on his function here. So not in the arena yet. Not running test cases with 2 minutes and 45 seconds remaining in the match. Ikatanich could blow up everyone's plans with a submission here, but it's hard to say if that's going to happen. Back to Taurus, everyone waiting to see. He does have code in the arena. He's currently pulled open the 300-point question in the arena, getting ready to potentially to submit. So he has migrated his code.
Getting a lot of love on Facebook for showing Tourist, as we've come to discover.
All right, yeah, it's it's crazy. It's just a lot of activity here. I mean, I'm almost running out of things to say as we watch Taurus. We'll keep his screen up because I feel like that's what everyone wants to see, him being the favorite. So we'll keep that going. 2 minutes remaining in the coding phase of the TCO 17 algorithm finals. Currently, XUDYH sitting on top, RNG58 trailing in second place, BCIP in third place, Scott Wu in fourth, then Taurus and Ikatanich sharing that tied for fifth place position with 0 points each.
Oh, and Tourist yet to open up the arena app. Or no, he's on it now.
Taurus is in the arena.
It's all.
Looks like he's making a couple edits here to get it to compile. Or now he's changing some of his logic there. So gotta keep that in mind. That might mean he's not ready to submit it yet with only a minute left.
Would you think this, if it were to happen, the only TCO finals that Tourist has not submitted anything in with a score of 0? This might be the only time.
I am not sure. I don't know that one off the top of my head, but. Tune in here. We're in the final minute of coding right now. Still no more submissions. Taurus cranking through. I really had a question. If he's going to submit late, I mean, is this too late? Don't question the meme strats. So, I guess we're going to find out if he
I would love to
submits.
move over to Scott Wu if we could, because he does only have pretty much the rest of this match to submit his code. And I know he was very close. If he submits right here at the end, putting him into second place, he'll have a great shot in the challenge round.
20 seconds left for Scott. He's
compiling code.
Oh, he's getting ready to go.
Here we go.
Oh, we do have a submission
Oh,
from
Tourist
Back
is
to
in.
Tourist. As quickly as we can.
Tourist has submitted 300-point question,
Tourist on the board, 263 points with
overshadowing
that submission.
Scott Wu. Scott Wu, we saw 3, 2, 1.
Coding phase is
over.
complete.
Unfortunately, Scott Wu was not able to get his
And
challenge
Tourist.
in.
Everyone was
And
expecting Tourist to fly in at the
Right.
last minute there. The
Holy moly.
leaderboard has blanked out for you right now. Give us a second. We'll get that back up there and see the total points.
There we go.
So currently, XUDYH sitting in the top position with 579 points. RNG 58 trailing behind with BCIP, Tourist, and Scott Wu taking up the rest of that of those who have scored points at this point. Ikatanich, unfortunately, with 0 points during that phase. Now it's time to talk about challenges, Nick.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So the challenge phase is where everyone can view everyone's code. This is an opportunity to open up everyone else's submissions, try and find a bug, submit a test case that exposes that bug, and make them lose their points. If your code is challenged successfully, you lose all the points that you earned on that problem. I'll just take a hypothetical example here of someone challenged BCIP's 450 point submission successfully. He would lose all of those points and drop to 0. If you submit a challenge and you're successful, that's 50 points right there for you. If you submit a challenge and you are unsuccessful, you lose 25 points. So you can't just go start stress testing it and just say I'm going to write a script to submit 100 test cases, because you'll just tank your own score at that point. After that phase is over, that's a 10-minute long challenge phase, by the way, we do run a system test phase. The system test is the final step in an SRM. It is where we throw thousands of test cases at this code, and we really make sure it's bulletproof. If you pass the system test, you earn those points. If you fail a system test on one of your submissions, you lose all of those points. So we'll pick on someone else. We'll say if Taurus were to fail the system test, which is not a common occurrence, but if he were, that 263 points would drop to 0 regardless of what happens in the challenge phase.
Absolutely. So anything can happen, whether it is in the challenge phase or during system test. So XUDYH, not out of the woods yet, but is in a good position.
All right, let's see here. We do have 2 minutes and 37 seconds until the next phase begins. So let's see here. Checking in on the chat. So a bunch of GGs, people commenting on Tourist, getting stuff done in the last minute here. Very, impressive work there from him. I mean, a lot of people saying he still has a chance to win. It's going to depend really on the challenge and test phase. I mean, every competition really depends on that. But definitely an exciting round. It took a little while to get interesting, but once it did, it was good stuff.
Exactly. So this challenge phase, I feel like it's going to be super exciting. We're really going to be looking at RNG 58. We're going to be looking at Tourist and Scott Wu. BCIP hopefully has a solid 450 point question score, and we'll see what happens.
All right. So with that, we have a minute and a half. Nick and I are going to take a quick breather to drink some water so we can get ready to call the challenge phase for you starting in just a minute and a half. We'll be back in just a moment. This time I got a little bit of music while we're gone. Enjoy.
The 10-minute long challenge phase of the algorithm competition has begun.
And we're back into the challenge phase right now. We're going to start checking out what is being done by Scott Wu. Our reasoning for this is that Scott was preparing test cases for the challenge phase in the 300-point problem. He went right for tourist.
Oh, wow.
You got to imagine that's because tourist submitted that right at the deadline, so there's probably an opportunity to go after him there.
We also speculated that he might have created a mini program that would run a competitor's code and to check to see if it would break. Currently, it doesn't look like he's doing anything with the code. He's just kind of analyzing it.
Well, I mean, that's what you have to do. You can't throw around challenges without really thinking it through, especially in such a close competition. XUDYH sitting on top will obviously be a target as well. So let's check in now. Taurus is going to need some help in the phase here. So Taurus.
So this is part of the gamesmanship right here. You're trying to see who else is opening whose points. If a lot of people tend to go toward one competitor, you may have to cut your losses there and head to another competitor.
Taurus opening XUDYH's 450-point problem, looking for an opportunity to take that down. At this point, we are a minute and a half into the 10-minute challenge phase. No challenges have taken place yet. We will keep you apprised of the situation if they do, as we follow the competitors looking for points there. So now we're going to go take a look at the screen of the reigning champion, RNG58, who is currently also looking at XUDYH's 450-point problem.
He needs to take him down, and the best way to do that is to go right after him.
Yeah, that would guaranteed move RNG58 into the top position, but it looks like he's backed out of that.
Oh, we have a burn. Scott Wu has burned Tourist.
Wow, Scott Wu
successfully challenged him.
Scott Wu has taken down Tourist. All that preparation work paid off for Scott. Look at that. He's earned himself 50 points, catapulting him into third place. And pushing Taurus down to 0 points. He cannot feel good about that right now. Going to the chat to see the reaction.
Oh
no.
So we know that Tourist will have a final score of 0 by the end of this unless he successfully challenges someone. But it might not be enough to win the championship this year.
Taurus came in here, even though RNG58 was the defending champion, Taurus comes into almost every competition as the favorite due to his history. But Scott Wu just going through and crushing that 300-point submission. I'm going to guess that Scott's going to go after another one.
I believe so. This doesn't surprise me at all. Scott Wu did spend a lot of time on that problem, a lot of research, and to attack someone who, again, like you mentioned, submitted at the last second. He knew that he was pretty vulnerable.
As my favorite comment in the chat, great Scott.
Oh boy! And I thought you had bad jokes.
Oh hey, now we gotta source them elsewhere. I got other people backing me up a little bit. So wow, that was exciting. Taurus must not be happy right now. Let's see.
We got a lot of surprised emoticons floating by on Facebook Live.
Yeah, so checking in on Taurus real quick, but I think we need to go to XUZYH, our current leader in the competition, and see what he's doing. Oh jeez, I thought for a second he might have been web browsing. Just that confident.
He's just like
checking out Reddit or something, you know.
Just hanging out.
Feeling good. No. Obviously going through and taking a look for more opportunities to secure his position here. As we have 6 minutes, 13 seconds remaining in the challenge phase, I do want to note, in a usual Topcoder SRM match, the system testing phase takes place immediately upon conclusion of the challenge phase. While we will be running the test in the background, the winner will be announced during our awards ceremony. That is scheduled, our broadcast of the awards ceremony is scheduled to begin at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That is 1 hour from now, 56 minutes from now. So if you're looking to see who the official winner of this competition is, tune back in for the awards ceremony at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's UTC -4.
All right, let's see if Scott Wu is attacking XUDYH. That's my theory, as if he takes down him, he would lose 269 points, and Scott Wu would gain 100.
So Scott Wu, looking for those challenge opportunities. You know he's prepared for it. Looks like he's starting to think about looking at 450-point problems.
All right, he's looking at XUDYH's 450-point problem. Let's see if he can find some flaw in there.
Yeah, so as Scott scrolls through there, let's see what RNG 58 is doing. The defending champion currently sitting in second place. Looks like he's digging through XUDYH's 450-point problem as well. That problem did have 3 submissions against it, but he was the fastest, and that's why I think people might be thinking he may have missed something, since he went from that straight into another problem, didn't worry about testing. As RNG 58, he's looking to see who's looking at his problems.
Oh no!
So that's interesting. It's also good to see that. So coming back to the stream here, not a lot of reaction since that first challenge. There have been no challenges since then, so we will go take a look at the scoreboard. You can see here the only challenge so far made in the challenge phase was done by Scott Wu, taking down Taurus 300-point submission. Putting him in the 3rd place, still not good enough to contend for that $10,000.
Yeah, now him not submitting to the second problem looks like it might be a detriment to him coming here in the challenge phase. But like we said, we don't know what's going to happen in the system test round.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just a lot of shocked faces around here seeing Taurus in the position that he is in. I do see a question in the chat, can Taurus challenge now? Yes, he can challenge others, and any points earned via challenge are guaranteed points. You can't lose those to system testing. So, I mean, theoretically, if everyone failed all the system tests and someone has a successful challenge, those are points in the books. So, Scott Wu currently the only competitor with guaranteed points in the books, but you have to assume that someone's going to pass system test, especially since none of these guys are finding any issues in the code during their challenge phase.
Exactly, and for those of you who may be new to this, it's not like you can just put in any sort of input into their code and do it over and over again, because as you attack and they defend, you're losing 25 points each time you do that. So need to be careful with how you challenge someone else's code.
RNG 58, we're going to look at him here. He has not made any challenges yet. It's gotta be a challenging position. These guys might be starting to think they have to leave their fate up to the system test if they're not seeing any vulnerabilities they can attack. So currently, just looks like he's hanging out. Just doesn't even know where to look. So
interesting.
Yeah,
that says a lot. It might even show us which pieces of code will submit successfully to the system test. So we could be looking at the final score, but at the same time, maybe not.
Yeah. Now, Scott Wu currently looking at XUDYH's 300 problem. Of course, as soon as I began the sentence, he bowed out of that and has moved on. So Scott Wu trying to decide who he wants to look at. And if anyone's curious, the reason we're focusing primarily on XUDYH, RNG 58, and Scott Wu is because they are the 3 in the strongest position at the moment, although BCIP is still in contention as well. So let's check in on BCIP, see what's going on there. Both Taurus and Ecotonic.
Oh, we have a defense.
Oh, we do have a defense.
It
so
looks
BCIP
like
has challenged XUDYH's 300-point submission unsuccessfully. That is a 25-point ding against BCIP, who was just trying to make a move.
And I think he needed to make that move. If he didn't, the results may have stayed the same. So I think at this point, he had to do it. I don't think it really hurt him or helped him. But with 1 minute 15 seconds left, he made the move.
Yeah, it didn't change on the leaderboard, but he was thinking he could put himself ahead of Scott Wu and knock XUDYH out of contention with a challenge there. Man, this is so back. We were just going to PCIP, so we'll take a look here. Must not be feeling super confident about any challenges now. Nick is stepping away, getting ready for an announcement at the end of the round. We do have 45 seconds left. I'm going to bring us to the scoreboard for the remainder of the challenge phase, just because that is the fastest way for us to communicate to you what is happening. So we see here that currently XUDYH maintaining control of that top position on the leaderboard. RNG 58 trailing behind by a little more than 150 points. Scott Wu behind him in the third place position. BCIP, who was only 2 points behind Scott Wu at one point, had a failed challenge which pushed him down. Scott Wu with the only successful challenge so far in this phase as we approach the end of the challenge phase with 5 seconds left. It doesn't appear that we're going to have any last-minute challenges, and we have locked in our scores at the end of the challenge phase of the TCO 17 algorithm final round. Please stay tuned. We'll have the system testing as soon as we can. That will be during the awards ceremony, TCO 17. That ceremony is scheduled to begin in 50 minutes, so please tune in. We will carry the live broadcast here on Twitch and Facebook Live. I hope you all can join us. You'll be free of my voice finally as we bring it all to the stage, and I'll just talk to you guys in the chat as we see who won not only the algorithm competition, but all of our competitions here at TCO 17. So Nick has run away, which is okay, but I want to just take a moment. Thank you all for tuning in for our coverage of the algorithm finals at TCO 17 in Buffalo, New York. So this is Will Price. I'll be back in just an hour as we go into the awards ceremony. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you soon.